It was frustrating for that reason, that you just want to scream at the characters. Don't be afraid of the dark. So this is a horror movie that was recommended to me again by a viewer, so thank you so much for that. By, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Friday Furious? And I've seen now Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and it fell a bit short for me. I can't lie. This film came out in 2010, so it is now 10, 11 years old. But even with that in mind, the reasons it fell short for me is still something I would have expected even then. For the bulk of the story, we're following Sally, who's the young girl who's been brought over to her dad's house, and he's there with his girlfriend, effectively. Now, in the house, it shows an intro at the start of kind of the original owners of the house, and they were hearing voices, and they had to give a sacrifice without saying a lot. And then fast forward to today, with everyone now in the house, the girl's there, and she starts hearing these voices. So I was looking to see if this film was maybe going to lean into whether it was a supernatural cause, or whether it was a creature or a monster of some kind. Yes, supernatural, but it's not a ghost, or it's not something, it's just a monster. That's fine. This seemed to kind of try a few different things, which none of them landed for me. And it was one of those films that you'll watch, you know, the ones where you're screaming at the TV, either out loud or just in your head, that the characters should or shouldn't be doing something. That was this movie. It was frustrating for that reason, that you just want to scream at the characters for just not fucking talking to each other. I'll go back a bit. So the girl, and what was meaning about the voices and whether it leans to creature or supernatural, is you just hear noises throughout. Now, I fully appreciate this movie must have sounded fantastic either in the cinemas or with a surround sound system, because the way those kind of voices are there, just filling the daughter with doubts, or the characters with doubts when they're heard, is really, really cool. But I will at least say it's not supernatural. It's just creatures there that need sacrifices. I thought it might have made the movie into kind of a lot of focus on the creatures and made a bit of a horror around those. It didn't. It kind of started to at points, you know, the creatures attacking people, but then it would shift tones and it focused on the family not believing the young girl who's experiencing this, and she's kind of seen them and spoken to the monsters. A lot of the times you'll get those movies where it is the characters, one is experiencing it, the other ones are doubting that person, and then kind of in the big finale they realise they were telling the truth all along. You do get that here, but it goes between disbelieving the daughter to just the kind of creature horror, and it felt a bit disjointed for me, that. So you've got various housekeepers as well. You've got Mr. Harris, who does kind of the gardening, and I think he's just kind of a general housekeep. He's never seen kids before. There's one scene where she's out there having a look around the garden and stumbles across a basement, and he just grabs her through a bush, and they make it a jump scare in the movie. So it can only be fucking terrifying for a child. And then he's just kind of yelling at her to not be going in that area looking for a basement. I'm not saying it's not a serious thing to not do. However, that's a kid. That is a child who's just having a look around because she's bored in her house. With the characters not talking to each other, this is where it poses a lot of the frustration. So the daughter is experiencing these things, she's discovered them, and the daughter believes they exist. Rightly so, when she first mentions it, the father and kind of his girlfriend don't believe her. That's fair enough, it's a child, maybe their imagination. There's a character that gets attacked severely in this movie with various weapons. He's not looking good. He's in hospital, and even during this scene he says he's had an accident, and then that's referenced a couple of times that he had an accident. He had scissors coming out of his fucking shoulder, and then he was getting cut with knives and everything. That's not an accident. And if you just think for a moment, they questioned him, hopefully he would have been honest and said there's these little fuckers in the house that done this to me, and then they hear from the daughter. Immediately the movie would have stopped that narrative because they realise, okay, maybe there's something here. Did they do it? No. Not even slightly. They speak to the character, but of course he's on a sedative, so he can't really talk, so he directs a character to get more information. And a little plot hole here, when she does this, the character goes to get more information, the dad's girlfriend goes, she finds out something about the house, and explicitly says, I didn't know this, and it's quite a big deal, this thing, and she's looked everywhere, and nowhere knew about this. She went to the library in this scene. That's got to be up in there in your top like 3 places you would go to find out about something, and she had no idea about this thing. So the daughter is trying to prove that these are real throughout the film, these creatures, and I don't know what the fuck they are. Rat human things. They're really weird and talk, and like with really deep voices, really dark, sinister voices. It's a weird one if anything. They don't like the light, hence the name of the movie. So she gets a camera at one point, a Polaroid camera, and manages to get a photo of one of these creatures. That's really good. And then just shortly after, the creature takes the photo back. So not only is the creature familiar with cameras and photography, and I feel like they put a lot in the creatures in that scene. When you really think about what the creature must have known, because they've been in a basement for hundreds of years, and they know how a Polaroid camera works, what it does, because all they seen was a flash and shot themselves. But apparently they know that's a photo taken, that's going to be developed soon, and if she gives it to someone, there's evidence of it. That's a lot. Now, in a scene shortly after, she hurts one of these creatures. There is physical evidence of the creature easily at her disposal, yet that's not referenced. The movie continues with them not believing her. I don't get how that plot hole wasn't seen, and they make a point that she's hurt the creature. You know, they make a show of it, they show it really well, and then nothing's done with that. You'd think if they'd picked up what was there and shown it to somebody, then they might start believing her a little bit more. I thought the acting in this was a bit phoned in. The daughter was good. There's better actors out there, you know, even child actors, there's better. She'd done her job well, which is fine. Every actor in this movie, I expected more, especially from Guy Pearce. He was your disconnected father who was focused on his career. That was really all his role was in the film, was just don't believe her and focus on your job and be a bit of a dick about it. He didn't bring much to the table. I don't know where that comes from, if that was him, the writing, the directing, but he was really not utilised enough in this movie. Unfortunately, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, I felt felt like phoned in acting for most of it. There was a couple of jump scares in it, I won't lie, I shat myself at. Doesn't mean it's a good one. All it takes is a loud noise and something to flash up and I'll shit myself. It looked a little bit bland, this movie, because a lot of it takes place just in the house. A lot of the shots kind of came together. I thought there wasn't enough to distinguish maybe even between the rooms or between the scenes as well. It just all looked quite samey. It's quite a boring film to look at and watch. It doesn't stay in its lane, whether it's a kind of creature horror with creatures coming to kill, or whether it's a psychological horror where you don't know if it's going to be a spirit or a monster or something, because it just kind of reveals that at the start. That's why I don't mind telling you how it here. And its ending was alright. It ended. That's what I can say. I wasn't really invested in the film to feel like there aren't any emotional impact from the ending of this movie. Where I would rate this film, unfortunately, would be if you've got the time to watch it, use that time for something else. Apologies, Freddie, if this is a good one of yours, but that was my thoughts on it. If any of you watching do have a movie recommendation that you might like to see me review, or that you might just think I'd enjoy, please do let me know down below. Whilst you're down there, kick the fuck out that like button. That's always appreciated. But have you seen Don't Be Afraid of the Dark? If you have, please let me know your thoughts below. Do you agree with me or not? I'd love to hear your reasons why. But that about wrapping things up. Thanks for watching.